everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Low Code Approach. I'm Sean Feeney, a senior chef, man-child, product marketing manager on the Power Platform team, and I'm joined by...
It is I, Senior Child and Product Manager Jocelyn Minchal of Power Platform and Copilot Security, and specifically for today's episode, also of Purview Integrations. And I am joined by...
Boring Senior. I'm a Senior Cloud Solution Architect, Delivery Lead, and a former Microsoft customer. And I am so excited about today's guest because we have on Jen Kammerer, who it was my onboarding buddy at Microsoft, and she focuses on data security. So Jen, how are you doing today?
Thanks, Wendy. I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here. I am also a Senior Cloud Solution Architect focused on data security. I've been working in the Purview space for probably the last 3 years or so, and really focused on data readiness and protection in the era of AI. So happy to be here with you all today.
So Jen, this podcast has a variety of listeners, people who are familiar with the concept of data security and Purview and those who aren't. So let's set the playing field here. When we talk about data security specifically, what is in scope?
So really, for most customers, they are concerned about a couple of things. They want to understand how AI is going to be processing their data that is in their M365 environment. They really want to know, they want to be assured that sensitive information isn't being leaked into or out of those AI tools. They also have discovered with the release of Copilot that perhaps their data security programs of the past haven't enabled the security that they're hoping to have. So they really are concerned about overexposure of information that's in their environment. So data security generally is going to focus on the data that's in those tenants, whether it's being accessed on behalf of a user or an agent or an app in AI, and particularly around what's sensitive.
I see. Hey, Jen, quick question. So because you're in the field and you get great, I don't want to say exposure to concerns raised by customers, but one of the questions that comes up is responsibility, right? And since you're talking to probably a wide swath of IT admins, you're talking at the C-suite level, whose responsibility is it to ensure data security in an organization? Is this at the IT admin level? Is this at the CTO, the CSO? Who are we talking to that would actually get the most out of utilizing tools like this?
That is a really great question. And the answer is everyone. Really, everyone is responsible. So, of course, the first step is getting an understanding of what the risk is. And so at the probably IT level, the organization needs to evaluate where the risk exists. And then once they understand that, they want to implement protections for that data. And that flows all the way down to the individual user. So the protections are configured by IT based on their discovery, based on their conversations with departments that are handling highly sensitive data. And then they're going to need to ensure that they bring all of their users into the policies they've deployed. So they understand what is our data security strategy when it comes to AI, what tools are available to me as a user to protect my data, what are specific examples of what the right ways and the wrong ways to use AI with the information that is found in my tenant. So it's everyone, all hands on deck.
So we're starting to get into the tools, right? You're starting to address, we're going to make some policies and everything. So let's get a little bit crispier. Microsoft Purview is a monster of a product. I feel like it's not even indicative to call it a product so much as it's a suite of solutions. Can you start to help me get the lay of the land? When I go into the Microsoft Purview portal, I'm going to be bombarded with a bunch of solutions. Say I am an IT admin and I'm trying to get a better understanding of, as you're saying, where is the sensitive information flowing to and from? How am I making sure that people have adequate access? If I were you, where would I start?
That's a really great question. And I'm glad you asked it because 18 months or so ago, when we initially released Copilot, we were trying to help customers kind of string together a variety of solutions to accomplish this. But Microsoft has really done an amazing job in this space with the release of DSPM for AI. It is kind of that one-stop shop dashboard that gives them the opportunity to not only identify where the sensitive information is, but whether or not it's properly protected. And if it isn't, they can, right in the tool, use one-click policy creation or one-click label application, things like that, to bring that data under control. And it's continuously monitoring, so they can visit it every week, every month, whatever timing is right for them, and make sense of what needs to be done and where new risk has evolved.
And DSPM for AI is standing for Data Security Posture Management for AI, also previously known as AI Hub.
Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to steal the mic for a sec. I think one of the things that I love most about AI Hub or DSPM for AI is the risky interactions capability. Can you share a little bit about that?
Are you talking about the data risk assessments?
We could talk about that, but what I was also thinking about is this was a suspicious prompt, admin. Maybe you should be aware of these prompts that people are trying to maliciously act.
So through integrations with other solutions like communication compliance, we can see risky prompts. We can understand what tools are being leveraged, what generative AI tools are being leveraged by users, and we can make decisions about what we want to do with that data. So if we have the right policies implemented, we can protect information that's being shared. We can apply restrictions to users who might be entering risky prompts into the environment using insider risk management and adaptive protection. We can help stop that in its tracks.
So Jen, you and I are on the field. We talk with customers all the time. I'm hot off a meeting with a customer this morning. We were having a conversation around what was the minimum data security requirements needed to be in place before they could roll out Copilot and agents and other tools to their organizations. So what do you usually recommend or advise customers as they're considering this? Is it a blocker to adopting our solutions?
I don't think so. So earlier I mentioned that just as the AI landscape is evolving, Purview is also evolving to support changes and new features and functionality in Purview. So today, of course, we want to make sure that customers have basic data protection in place for AI. So sensitivity labeling, DLP policies. We also do support agents with those tools. Agents can be aware of those policies. AI apps can be aware of those policies, but we aren't 100% there yet. So as I mentioned, it is continually evolving. So new capabilities, new features, new protections will become available to help as the agent landscape evolves.
Gonna do a small shameless plug because I was really excited. We're filming this shortly after build right now for our listeners. And one of the big things that we announced in Charles's keynote was the auto labeling capability of Dataverse, which is going to go ahead and actually be displayed in MCS or Microsoft Copilot Studio custom agents, as well as using the infrastructure of Power Platform connectors to pass those sensitivity labels through them to also be surfaced across maker and user experiences for agents. So what that means now is, if I as a Purview admin have configured a bunch of labels specific to my tenant, and then perhaps the people that are creating Word documents or Excel spreadsheets are labeling those adequately, they're going to start to actually appear in these agentic scenarios as well, which is really awesome.
Hey, Jen, because we love acronyms, there's this thing called SAM, right? And in there, I can apply policies and I can check for oversharing. What is SAM? What does it apply to? And how does that provide any security for me as an organization?
SAM is SharePoint Advanced Management, and we have kind of evolved our strategy in terms of how we help customers not only understand where their risks are, but then address them. And SAM is one of two tools, DSPM for AI being the other, that customers can use particularly at the site level. They can understand where risks evolve in the site configuration. Is the site configured to be public? Does it have sensitive information stored on it? And if so, they have the option to apply policies that can override the site permissions, eliminate the ability to share content more widely than it should be shared. It can also help them automatically interact with the site admins, who really are the people who have the best understanding of the data that's on their site and how it should be accessed and leveraged. So it gives them kind of a suite of tools, if you will, to help protect data that should be there, eliminate data that maybe isn't providing value anymore, but poses a risk because it contains sensitive information, by using lifecycle policies to clean it up and getting those admins involved and making sure that the work that they're doing on their sites is properly protected.
So we talked a lot about DSPM for AI and labels and agentic scenarios, but I want to kick it old school for a sec and talk about auditing and how auditing has evolved. So there are a ton of really, really rich ways that you can leverage the auditing capabilities in Purview. And I think that this is honestly the staple for a lot of our customers' compliance and regulatory needs. Can you tell me about how the auditing capabilities have evolved in the age of AI, what new activities we can look for, as well as is there any way for us to automate these audits?
So that's a great question. We do have a couple of ways that we can audit. So first of all, the audit log now includes interacted with Copilot as a data point. And that is going to return data around both users and agents interacting with Copilot and with data. And that can give companies a good amount of insight into where the activity is happening, what sort of information is being accessed, things like that. There are a ton of reports available now as well. So information, if they want to audit, what generative AI applications people are using. If they're utilizing those apps with sensitive information, is that information properly labeled, for example? So they're in DSPM for AI, in communication compliance. There are ways that they can view what users are typing into their prompts, what information is being returned to them in their responses. They can make decisions about how to act on that information as well. So lots of great tools available for auditing. And then eDiscovery is also integrated. So if there is a need, they can access information that users are sharing into Copilot. They can make decisions about whether they need to retain that information, remove that information, things like that.
So, Jen, I would love to understand. We talked about the spectrum, the end of the spectrum, where users or companies may not have established any data security. What about companies that have robust data security? They've adopted Purview, they've adopted some of these other tools that you mentioned, but now they're looking at agents. Now they're looking at Copilot. Does their strategy fit cleanly into, let's pick on Copilot, for example, 55? Can they just start adopting, and are they secure and ready to go? Or is there more that they need to do to close that gap on readiness?
I think there are kind of two important areas to think about in this space. The first is moving beyond the basics, which are labeling and DLP, into communication compliance, which can monitor interactions with Copilot. It can also help with understanding prompt injections or whether or not users are trying to generate data that is maybe copyrighted or trademarked somewhere. It gives them an opportunity to review the real kind of meat of how people are interacting with it. And so that should be an ongoing part of what they do to administer it going forward. And then also the insider risk management. The policies there can help organizations not only monitor users who might be interacting in, let's say, risky ways with AI, but also automate the implementation of protections on those users. So let's say someone is doing something risky with AI, they can use IRM to automatically apply a restrictive conditional access policy or DLP policy to that user while they're in that risky state, while they investigate what's happening and remediate it. So they should evolve beyond the basics. They should be actively monitoring going forward, not only user interactions, but agent and AI app interactions as well.
Jen, this is a ton of information, which is great, right? And I think it's super helpful. But if you were going to provide next steps to a customer to say like, hey, this is what you should read up on, this is what you should understand, what would you supply them with? Are there links that I can then take from you and put into show notes? Is basically what I'm asking.
That's a great question. And I was actually thinking about that as I was preparing for our call today. There isn't one source of information that can help with all of these things, but there are a couple of consistent things. So of course, staying on top of the M365 roadmap, and customers can either do that by visiting the roadmap, or they may work with someone like Wendy or me to better understand upcoming capabilities for protecting data in the era of AI. We also have a security and compliance blog where we've generally got articles being released regularly on a variety of topics, including things around data security. So those are probably good places to start, but there are many other options available.
I'm going to ask another selfish question. I think Purview rocks. I think Purview is the best. I've said before on this show that I think Microsoft is the best for a myriad of reasons. And every time I say it, I have a different reason. Why do you think Purview, with the tremendous suite of offerings that it has, is really a leg up on the security capabilities of the industry, like in an agentic world, in your opinion?
That's a good question. Right now, I am more impressed with the speed at which change is happening in Purview. I think that is one of our greatest strengths. Not only is it a comprehensive suite of tools, but it is just adapting so quickly to the changes that we're seeing in the market. Also, the fact that we can extend it beyond just the basics, beyond just protecting your M365 data and helping organizations with their other enterprise Gen AI apps, with Gen AI apps that may not be enterprise versions. We're extending those capabilities across the landscape, and we're doing it quickly. I think that is what really sets us apart.
Do you have any examples? Data security, right? It's hard to be too specific with customers, but just generally, I think it's always valuable whenever we have someone who works directly with customers to share some success stories or some of the current trends that you're seeing, the customers' conversations, aside from Microsoft's guidance going.
Sure. I think one of the trends that I appreciate is the mind shift away from, oh my gosh, I've got a lot of sensitive data being exposed here, so let's just stop the deployment of AI altogether. That's where we were sitting about 18 months ago, 12 to 18 months ago.
I remember. Yeah.
Yes. What I'm seeing is organizations saying, okay, we understand there is a risk, but we also know there are tools in place to help us mitigate that risk. And so we're willing to consider a variety of options so that we can move forward with AI. We can't block it. We can't stop it. We need to keep up with the times. And so we need to think creatively about what is right for our organization. Is it starting with a small pilot group? Is it phasing in controls starting with high priority data? Is it agent focused? What is the need for our particular organization? And let's address it so that we can move forward. So that shift in mindset, I think, has been the biggest change I've seen in the field over the last year.
We talk about this on the Power Platform side quite a bit for those who were listening from the low-code days, but that journey map, right? So it's that spectrum of starting on the crawl, walk, run. I think you're living this, Jen. That's what we're seeing constantly with customers, and even scoping it, as you said, to a subset of users, getting started, seeing the value. We're also seeing customers dealing with the risk of shadow AI. And have you been having some of those conversations as well with customers?
That's definitely becoming more prevalent. So customers are interested in understanding what tools their users are attempting to access and what they're doing with those tools. And DSPM for AI helps out in that space as well, giving them insight into, I'm not sure how many are on the list now, but I feel like it's well over 100 other generative AI apps that we can track. And that list seems to be growing every day. So that is definitely a thing that customers are at the front of their minds today, because the landscape is growing so quickly.
True. And it moves very fast. And I can tell you from the marketing perspective, it's just going to get faster. It is an exciting time for all. Hey, Jen, I know I asked you before about links and kind of like getting started and whatnot, but let's pretend that we're not just getting started. What do you want the listener to take away? If you had to sum it all up, what do you want the listener to take away today as we wrap up the show?
I think the most important thing is for organizations to understand that their data security program needs to be active every day, and it needs to involve all users. It isn't something that they can work on today and complete. They need to continue working actively on data security just like they do with regular security. And they need to be able to adapt to the changes that are happening quickly in the environment, keeping on top of the tools that are available to them, making requests of Microsoft or other vendors when they see a need that isn't being addressed, making sure that they are actively engaged with what's going on in their user base and that they're appropriately addressing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate all the amazing information you shared with us. And given the pace of innovation here, probably have you back on sooner rather than later to go over all the changes. So thank you so much, Jen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.